In the beginning, you gathered in an unremarkable tavern where a bright-clad messenger cut the room in half, dropped a wax-sealed letter, and bade you take the West Road. The letter, flowing script and flowery entreaties, claimed a burgomaster begged heroes to save his beloved from a terrible evil. Dawn found you on the old Svalich road, snow-melt puddles black as mirrors under looming trees. The iron gates of Barovia hung open between headless guardians. When you crossed the threshold, Zatha's spectral steed flickered and died, and the fog folded shut behind you like a door. A carrion stink led you to a body half hidden by brambles, wolf-torn and days dead, clutching a second mud-crumpled letter. Its ink bled urgency. A vampire had bled the burgomaster's daughter. Barovia was doomed, and outsiders should seal the borders and let the land die. You burnt the corpse. The wolves howled back. The mists gave way to a riverside camp of Vistani. You shared wine and banter until Madame Eve beckoned you into her scarlet tent. By crystal light she dealt a reading. Seek ancient knowledge in a tomb crowded with bottles. Find a holy hope in the orbit of a sleeping prince. Reclaim a sword of sunlight atop dizzying heights where living stone watches. Win the aid of a dusk elf haunted by loss. And know your enemy, enthroned in his dark domain, everywhere and unseen. A Vistana named John tried to sell you a community map in secret. Ember's temper and the camp's outrage ended that. You left under watchful eyes. The village of Barovia emerged from the haze, its windows black and streets silent. Bildrath's mercantile charged a fortune for cloth and bandages. At the Blood on the Vine Tavern, a weary barkeep polished clean cups, while 3 Vistani women watched. Ismark the Lesser bought your drinks, and with a handshake heavy as a promise, asked for help escorting his sister Irina to Vallaki. First, she insisted on burying their father. You found the burgomaster's mansion battered, clawed walls, scorched stone, and every window boarded and marked by holy suns. Irina unbarred the door, and there lay Kolyan Indirovich in a flower-ringed coffin. You bore him through the streets, past the townhouse of Mary whose wailing never stopped, to the church beneath Castle Ravenloft's looming pillar. Inside, Father Donovich prayed frenziedly until a voice from the floor shrieked, "Help me, Father, I'm starving!" You dug a grave, spoke words over the dead, then found the chained trapdoor. In the earthen undercroft, candlelight from the cracked floor above striped a gaunt figure. Doru, Donovich's son, stank of the grave and hunger. Pleas and prayers faltered. The lunge came for Zathor. Ember's light flared. Melda steadied, and Milo's halberd pinned the creature through the heart. Doru went still. Donovich's grief broke like a storm. "Leave," he sobbed. "Look what you've done. You left him clutching his boy in the dirt." By afternoon, with Kolyan buried and the church behind, you set out for Vallaki with Ismark and Irina. Ravens gathered in your wake, keeping distance as they shadowed your march. Irina spoke of nightmares and eyes watching, of blurring memories and faded marks at her throat. The prophecy's pieces rattled in your packs like iron keys, and ahead the road wound into mist toward a town that might yet hold a line against the devil's will. And then it all faded to black. Last session you took the Svalich road with Ismark and Irina, determined to reach Vallaki. Not long after dusk, a pale, sharp-featured man with pointed ears and a noble coat appeared in your midst. Calling himself William, an advisor to Strahd, he offered you whatever your hearts desired if you delivered Irina to Ravenloft: gold, power, immortality. He warned that ravens watched you and even hinted at treasure hidden among roadside graves. Then Irina's scream tore through the trees, wolves howled, and when you wheeled back, the advisor was gone, leaving only a curl of mist in his wake. You reached a crossroads where a creaking gallows hung empty, until Ember saw her own lifeless double swing from the beam. Her fire erased the vision, and you refused the lure of shallow graves nearby. Turning right, you reached the Vistani encampment by the lake. Dottie greeted you with wine and warmth, and by the bonfire she recounted the legend of a mighty wizard who tried to rally Barovia, dueled Strahd from the castle to the falls, and was hurled to his death. Meanwhile, Zasta's raven, bared to bone by Barovia's curse, shadowed 2 Vistani women as they worried that Strahd desired Irina for her likeness to a dead queen. To hide in plain sight, Irina and Ismark took aliases, Dutch and Dave. At first light, Dottie urged you to see Madame Ava, newly returned, but you chose to push on. A revenant knight strode from the road's verge, sword raised. Steel and sorcery met him head-on, until a pack of wolves rushed from the trees and forced the undead to flee. The wolves swarmed him and tore him apart. Melda thought to claim spoils, but backed down from a ring of snarls. You wondered aloud whether the beasts served Strahd, guarding Irina's life for their master's designs. Midday brought a river, a great waterfall roaring beneath a dizzyingly high stone bridge. After a brief pause and some muddy mischief, you climbed under a sky that dimmed unnaturally. Ahead, a glossy black carriage blocked the road, its door yawning open, and William's silhouette waited beyond. Sensing deceit, Ember's flames ripped through the mirage, the carriage and figure guttered out, revealing only an iron gate set across the road. You agreed on a new rule. If Dutch and Dave can't see it, it's likely a trick. Test it, then torch it, pressing into denser woods. An apple rolled across your path from a picnic basket by a stump. When Milo approached, the stump unrolled a slick tongue and struck. Fire blossomed from Ember's hands, Milo's halberd chopped, Zasta's blade flashed, and the mimic shuddered under the onslaught. You beat back the hungry thing and readied yourselves to march again, with Valaki somewhere ahead and Strahd's attention tightening around you like the gathering clouds. Last session, you followed the smell of fresh pastries and a child's scream into the rotting windmill called Old Bone Grinder. Baskets, bones, and an open barrel of filth hid behind a cheery oven, while an apple-wrinkled crone and her scowling daughter cooed about their wares. From above came more cackling, a child's sobs, and the groan of the old millstone. Ember slipped upstairs, found 3 stacked crates, and pried 2 open. A tear-streaked Myrtle and a steadier Frederick tumbled out into her arms. On the grinding floor below, the pretense snapped. Zathor's holy presence sent the hags skittering. Melda's taunts and crackling sorcery kept them off balance. Milo met the mother head-on, and with a brutal stroke, took her head cleanly. Ember dragged the children toward the stairs and then flooded the upper story with fire. The daughter shrieked, flames raced the walls, and you fled through heat and smoke. Outside, you staggered into the light with both children as the windmill collapsed in a column of sparks. Myrtle and Frederick described the dream pastries that drown sorrow in bliss, and the price their village had paid for that quiet. Hours later on the road, a shape leaned against a tree. William, Billy, watching. 3 dire wolves broke from the brush and charged. You bloodied them. Ember's magic hammered William from afar, and at his whistle, the wolves wheeled and vanished at his heels. You pressed on, reached Valaki at dusk, and were denied the gate, wolf heads grinning on their spikes. The guards mocked you toward a camp beyond the walls. There, Vistani wagons ringed a great tent, while dusk elves stood silent at their cabin doors. Luvash, the Vistani leader, had Alexei tied to a pole and lashed him bloody. Arabelle, Luvash's daughter, had been missing almost a day. You pledged to search. In a nearby hovel, Dusk Elf leader Casimir Velikov warmed you with wine and whispered of the Amber Temple in the distant mountains. Rumors of a power there that could end Strahd. If you chose that path, he asked you to return for him. At dawn, you entered Valaki, escorted Ismark, Irina, Myrtle and Frederick to St. Andrew's, and learned its sacred bones were missing, leaving the church unwarded. When a shifty laborer near the back wall bolted, you ran him down. Under Ember's searing threat, he confessed the coffin maker had bought the theft with food. After a curt encounter with guards and word of a mandatory festival of the blazing sun, Ember stormed the coffin maker's shop. Upstairs lay 6 vampire neophytes and a cold circle of light. Her fire rolled in without catching the room, and William stepped through the circle to protect the spawn within. You stood at the threshold, holy light and hungry darkness coiled to strike, with Arabelle still missing, St. Andrew's bones returned, and a festival kindling in the morning. On the 4th night of your adventure, you returned to Valaki's coffin maker at dusk and found William waiting atop a nest of 6 fledgling vampires. He seethed that you'd stolen Katrina and ruined everything, then promised an ending at Ravenloft before vanishing. The fledglings sprang. You answered with merciless heat, igniting coffins and beams while blasting one through the floorboards. With the staircase filling with flame, you seized a struggling survivor, hogtied it, and crashed out into the night as the 2nd floor roared. The street convulsed in panic. You shouldered through, refused the toy maker's attempt to claim your captive, and dragged the fledgling to the mayor's mansion. There, amid ash and accusation, you executed it without ceremony. Guards fanned out to hunt others. You were advised to find your friends and keep to the inn. The Blue Water offered wolf steaks, wary hospitality from Erwin and Danica, and a hard-won night's sleep interrupted by a raccoon rifling your packs. Morning brought the festival notices, a stockade prisoner shouting that Strahd owns everything, and at St. Andrew's Church a guarded confession. Irina meant to become a nun and never leave the sanctuary. Ismark refused to abandon her. Then a tutu-wearing monkey, the toymaker's Blinky, chattered you to a secret gap in the palisade. Past the gates, your path bent to a sullen lake where a lone fisherman pitched a wriggling sack into the depths. You sprinted for the boats, seared the man in his skiff, and hauled the sack up as the last bubbles died. It was Arabelle, Luvash's daughter. She lived. At the Vistani camp, Luvash wrapped her in his arms and repaid you with 4 horses marked to pass unmolested through a hidden forest way. Grief shadowed your next stop. The Dusk Elves stood in mourning. Casimir Velikov, tormented by dreams of his sister, had taken his own life. In his final note, he named you and left a weapon for your war, the Sunblade. Storm clouds pressed low as you rode out, the horses choosing the narrow way. A panicked bolt scattered you, and after a fiery sky sign brought you back online, the cliffs opened to a black silhouette on high. Castle Ravenloft's gates swung wide to receive you. Inside, torchlight washed a vast foyer where dragon statues slid from the walls and breathed gouts of fire before freezing back to stone. The great doors boomed shut behind you. Somewhere beyond, an organ's mournful hymn rose and fell like a heartbeat. With Blinky skittering to safety, steel steady in your hands and the Sunblade's promise at your side, you stepped deeper into the castle where Billiam's challenge and Strahd's curse waited to be answered.
For the finale, you entered the castle's grand entry. 4 stone dragons looming and lively organ music beckoning from a bright dining hall. A feast for 4 steamed on silver. William sat at the organ and the stage was set, until a conjured gust roared down the table, flipping platters and wine. The scene went dead, light smothered, wind hurled you to the floor, and dust reclaimed the room. A secret panel took you to a chapel of Ravencroft, its marble altar flanked by angelic carvings and a cloaked corpse. Melda claimed a black mace, got an armful of rot for her curiosity, and helped burn the husk. Around you, bas-reliefs of battlefield glory revealed William's face below the name Strahd. Back in the hall, only the stair remained. Upstairs, an audience chamber held William upon a marble dais. Words shattered into violence. He turned wolf, charmed Milo to shield him, skittered past blasts and ate fire and steel. A brilliant strike and a searing spell drove him to vapor. The mist fled to a glowing circle behind the throne. Your monkey shrieked, leapt through and disappeared. You followed. You crashed into mud and fog before a familiar townhouse. 2 children hid behind a chair, whispering about a monster in the basement. Inside, a broom swung like a prizefighter. A dumbwaiter groaned, and candlelit rooms reeked of emptiness. The attic held 2 small skeletons beside a perfect dollhouse replica of the home. A ghostly girl surged into Ember, bending her mood until, in the crypts below, you opened coffins for Rose and baby Walter. The spirit left Ember, and the wailing quieted. From deeper tunnels, Milo's voice echoed. You crept toward a blue-lit chamber, skirted a spike pit barely, and tore down a fallen drape to pull each other free. In the ritual hall, 13 cowled figures ringed an altar and chanted, "One must die." Your monkey lay chained on the slab. Then an undead Milo lurched from shadow, Strahd's malice burning in him, and demanded a sacrifice to restore his master. Ember superheated the chains and blasted him with roaring magic. Zather and Melda rushed in. Magic missiles hammered. A long sword bit. The undead fell. The chant stopped. The walls shivered. A shambling mass of corpses heaved from an alcove and the house awoke. Doorways sprouted scything blades. Windows bricked over and acid smoke boiled up from below. You ran. You leapt the pit, shouldered through groaning halls, and smashed a weakened wall beside the barred door. Night air hit your lungs. The village gates stood open. You sprinted from Barovia as the mist drew its curtain and the iron crashed shut. Beyond those bars, William and the ruined Milo watched you vanish into the dark, and you swore you'd never return, until the road twisted you back toward his throne.